Peter, good morning. Welcome to Birmingham. When we last spoke back in the spring, Europe 2020 had only just been published by the Commission and was yet to be discussed by the Council of Ministers. Could you give us an outline of where it's now reached and how it's currently informing developments?
Well, a lot has happened since we last spoke about this. In June of this year, the European Council of Heads of Governments and States decided to endorse the strategy, and they took full ownership of the strategy. It now means that it has been endorsed at the highest level of the European Union and has therefore become our political guideline and guidance for the future, that is for the next decade. And that gives it a completely credible and very, very solid foundation, because all the member states are now committed to working towards the guidelines, the achievement of the guidelines and the objectives set out in the strategy. And for the area of employment, the development of the labour market, the development of active inclusion, that is extremely important. Out of the 10 overall guidelines that the strategy is supposed to achieve, 4 deal with either the employment side or the social inclusion aspects of the strategy. So it's extremely important. And in terms of the employment objective, it was confirmed that we would like in 2020 to have a situation where 3/4 of everybody who can work between the age groups of 20 to 65, 75% should be in employment. So very important development, very important endorsement, and of course very, very important objectives to reach.
You mentioned 75% as a target employment rate for 2020. How does that compare with the figure now? How much movement do we need to see?
As things stand right now, the average for all 27 member states is just over 69%. So there's still a considerable way to go. But it has to be said very clearly that we are not aiming at uniform employment rates throughout the European Union. Member states have different starting points, and member states have different possibilities and opportunities to develop. But we think that all the member states, from their respective levels, can contribute to the achievement of the overall objective. So the 2020 strategy is not actually a diktat that each member state should in 2020 achieve this and this ballpark figure. It is the type of Europe that we would like to see emerge from the efforts of the member states. Some member states will have gone considerably further. Some will still have a way to go to achieve the 75%, but on the average, all member states should contribute to achieving the 75%.
The Commission has recently published some draft budget principles for the period covered by Europe 2020. Could you explain how those principles and the strategy work together and what will be happening over the next few months?
The Commission is supposed to come forward with a proper budget proposal next spring. And as a preamble to that, the Commission has wanted to establish some basic principles that will guide how the budget is established. And these basic principles are very closely related to the overall objectives of the 2020 strategy. We want to have real value for the money we put into the budget. We realize, of course, that member states are in a very, very difficult financial situation, and you just have to open any newspaper any morning to see austerity measures, measures to cut public expenditure and introduce public savings. And we think that a European budget in this context must also be an instrument to deliver quality and real value for the money put into the budget. And on that basis, we have established some principles that we would like the budget to reflect. That is sound delivery, that is quality actions at very reasonable input in terms of money. We want to alienate or link the different budget chapters to the priorities of 2020, and we want in particular to have a look at how the budget revenue side, how the revenue is raised for the budget, so that we have a fair and balanced approach. And all of this will be principles that will go into the actual budget that will be presented towards end of spring next year.
So we're obviously going into a very important period of discussions, negotiations and so on around firming up the budget against Europe 2020. Without passing judgment on the different positions, could you give us a view of the different possible paths that the structural funds and ESF in particular might follow?
It's very obvious that structural spending, as we call it, spending via the structural funds and cohesion policies, which is a very, very substantial part of today's budget, will of course have to be an integral part of the review of expenditure. We believe that cohesion funding is essential to support the strategies of economic development and growth, both in regard to the creation of jobs, to create sustainable growth, to input knowledge into the growth, so that we are building a society based on quality and knowledge content of products and processes. It is therefore very, very important that the structural funds reflect properly the priorities of the 2020 strategy. We know that there will be a need to support the creation of jobs. Therefore, the main instrument which is supposed to facilitate labour market development, namely the European Social Fund, must have a strong and important role in the budget as well as in the strategy itself. We know that a number of regions, a number of population groups, a number of disadvantaged groups will need support in order to be able to participate in this development. Therefore, the cohesion policies will have to be continued and focused on solving these priority problems. So for cohesion, there is clearly a case. I think the Commission has established that case over a very long period of time together with the Member States. I expect that cohesion policies will play their full part in the budget review. But this said, it is not possible today to really give you any figure or any growth indications for any parts of the budget. It has now been clear what the principles for revising the budget will be. The Commission will now go back to the work table and draft the proposals that will be put forward in spring of next year. But you're absolutely right. That is just a first step in what is going to be, I believe, a very, very difficult series of negotiations, which of course involve economic and financial interests of all the member states and of all the players in community policies, from agriculture to structural spending to research and development to external services. So there is a lot of political interest focused on this debate, and I'm sure we will get the full interesting discussion displayed for us when the time comes.
Are there clear differences of point of view, differences of strategy that people might want to take with regard to this?
There are different starting points, as I mentioned before, from the point of view of the member states. Some member states obviously have a very keen interest in continuing development of their infrastructure, their physical infrastructure in transport, telecommunications, development of their basic transport network over a relatively short period of time, so they are able to participate in modern exchange of goods and services and of course production of them. So there's clearly a very strong wish and need in those member states to continue infrastructure expenditure supported by the European Union. And the Union itself has a very, very keen interest in seeing that the transport networks, the communication networks, the energy networks of the European Union are completed and can function, because that is part and parcel of completing the internal market, which of course is essential to the development of the European Union. Other member states will want to focus much attention on the development of their labour markets, development of qualifications in their populations, qualifications of particular groups of people on the labour market or at the margin of the labour market. Some member states, and I think that still includes the UK, will need to see further development of gender balances in the labour market. UK is not alone in this area, of course, but there will have to be focus on female participation rates in order to achieve the overall goal, which still is the purpose of the whole exercise, the overall goal of seeing 75% of people who can work actually participating in the labour market. There will be member states that will focus a lot on development of new skills and new qualifications, because new jobs are coming around as well. Jobs which are in the green sector, sustainable energy sector, that will require different and developed skills compared to what we have today. And therefore some member states, I think indeed a majority of member states, will need to have a look at what is the pool of qualifications and of formal education levels, etc., in our working population, and how does that pool compare to the needs of industry, of services, of trades in the years to come. And in a 10-year objective, it is actually possible to do that kind of match, or attempt to match the skills available with the jobs and job opportunities that will have to be that will be created. So the matching of skills and jobs is one of the areas where member states will have to focus attention. And incidentally, the Commission has actually started substantial groundwork on precisely this. There is an initiative dealing with how to develop skills for new job opportunities. We are supplementing that with another initiative called Youth on the Move, which particularly looks at the qualification levels necessary among the young people who enter into the labour market, so that they have the prospect of a career, and a prospect of a career that will actually last hopefully for a bit longer than the careers that we have gone through, because we also need to increase the retirement age so that more people still in the workforce that we talked about, more people actually participate in work. So there are different starting points, and that of course lead to different interests being put forward by the member states, and indeed by Commission proposals as well.